Okay, I think
I just want to apologise in advance if anyone can hear my my work colleagues swearing, but that's because we are humans before technology. So I'm going to ask them politely to wind their mouths in. Right. In which case,
it proves it's live, but yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. This is the third in our series of 22 minutes with. Today, we're laying down the gauntlet to Richard Dickinson from Bright Security, formerly Eurolegion. Richard will be explaining what modern DAST is. Just to make you all aware, we are recording this event today, and towards the end, we're going to carry out a short poll, and we'd be grateful if you could take a minute or two just to complete that. We've got 22 minutes, so in the essence of time, I'm going to now hand over to Richard. Any questions, we will have a couple of minutes at the end, or you can raise your hand during the presentation, but please, if you can hold your questions to the end. Thank you. Richard, over to you, sir.
Thanks, Graham. So I'm Richard Dickinson. I run the EMEA region for Bright Security. Today, I'm going to share my screen, run through 10 slides or so, and I'll also show you a quick demonstration of the platform. So let me share my screen. Okay, so everybody should be able to see my screen now. So thanks, first of all, to RS22 for inviting me to speak today on the year of the 22. So Bright Security, application security from build to compliance. So what is this all about, and who is Bright Security, first of all? Some people think we're a startup. The reality is we've been in the market now for fast approaching 5 years. We've been operating primarily in the Israeli and North American market up until last year. We're 75 plus employees today, with development hubs in Israel and Bosnia, and sales offices around the world. We actually just announced our first Series A funding round of $20 million. And this is really to fuel our growth and expansion over the next couple of years. So what is it do we do? There's lots of talk about application security testing. We've all been doing it in some form or other for the last 20 plus years. What we do is a new take on an old problem. So we are absolutely a dynamic application security testing solution, but rather than being one which is driven by security professionals or AppSec professionals, we've actually fixed many of the problems with these traditionally manual, semi-manual tools, and we've provided a developer-first, fully automated platform. This enables us to have a very broad attack surface of coverage. We can test everything from production, web apps, large complex applications, single-page applications, but we've also been optimized for APIs. We support all the main frameworks, REST, SOAP, and GraphQL, and things like WebSocket, which have been traditionally very difficult to test. Business logic testing, this has been very much the realm of the pen tester. Why? Because as humans, we are very cognitive. We understand how to chain together and link together different forms of attacks. We've actually got an AI engine that can mimic this as well. And on the mobile app side, the master server side, we can test the master server mobile apps as well. But what is our primary use case? As I've said, DAST historically has been a manual, a semi-manual tool driven by an AppSec professional. What we've done is to enable dynamic testing to live inside the software development world and to integrate seamlessly with your CI/CD integration tools. But to enable that to happen effectively, we really needed to fix several big problems with historic DAST. The first is scalability. Typically, the DAST solutions are downloaded onto an individual's laptop, and you've got issues with performance across the network. you've got it locked down to a user, etc. We're actually a cloud-based SaaS, collapsed into AWS globally. We have no such limitations of scalability or performance. The second big Achilles heel has been speed. Traditionally, DAST scanners have used a technique called crawling or crawling an application. And this is very much a very slow and steady scan of a web app. Now, whilst those characteristics are fine if you're wanting to augment your traditional pen testing, to operate inside a pipeline, what you need is the ability to do very quick focus scans of applications or parts of applications. And we can do that. We have two different ways of scanning tools outside of a crawler, where we can run scans in seconds, if not minutes. This enables us to operate in the pipeline. And the third big Achilles heel is false positives. This has been the biggest issue with dynamic scanners. It's been part and parcel of an AppSec professional's job to sit there and iron out the false positives before you can actually use the reports and send it back to a developer. What we've done is build the industry's first machine-driven verification engine. Every test that we perform, there is a set of criteria that the application needs to demonstrate as we are interacting with it live. If it meets the criteria, we show it as a true positive. We don't show ifs, buts, or maybes, and we've absolutely moved the service bar in the industry from 40% false positives on every scan to way less than 1%. And this is in effect what we've done. So why is this important now? Why would you go to all this effort to fix some of these problems? Why do you want to operate inside the pipeline when actually people have been using scanners, testing tools manually for the last 20 years? Well, there's been some big changes in the industry over the last 10 years. In fact, driven by digital transformation, the cloud, etc., traditional bricks and mortars businesses have really changed the way they do business and interact with their clients. In fact, businesses today are generating 100 times more code than they did 10 years ago. This has increased massively the disparity between the team sizes of software developers versus AppSec professionals. Certainly when I started 25 years ago, the team sizes were pretty similar. Today, I'm seeing 100 to 1, 200 to 1 in terms of software developer numbers for every AppSec professional. And with this massive disparity, this creates enormous challenges for businesses. In fact, 86% of organizations are knowingly deploying applications into the wild, into production, with known vulnerabilities. So if you think about that, why would they do that? Very simply, the sheer volume that is being created in terms of apps and code inside large businesses, AppSec security just can't keep up with the demand with their limited resources. And so what we've done is enable security to be part of the solution. In fact, enable DevOps to be part of the solution. Rather than creating silos between teams, what we've got is a cloud-based SaaS that enables us to automate the security testing inside the software development environment, but also to augment traditional pen testing in the production world. What we can do is integrate seamlessly and completely frictionless for a developer inside their existing pipeline tools. What we're not trying to do is make a software developer a AppSec professional. This just doesn't work. What we want to do is for security to define still what is acceptable, what type of tests do we want to perform, and we want to have consistency of testing as well. This can all be done inside the platform, but without a security professional having to get involved in every single scan. And as we've talked about, you must have a large, broad attack surface to enable this, and you've got to be able to do scans very quickly. And the main thing we want to do is to enable, yes, the automation and orchestration in the pipeline, but we also want to enable security to gain that visibility of the issues and vulnerabilities that have been lacking, so that the issues can be identified quickly the developer can fix their own problems quickly inside the build phase potentially. And this enables security to manage that exposure and that risk profile of the vulnerabilities, but without having to try and capture them at the 11th hour. So what we're doing is providing a platform that is de-risking applications from being launched into production with vulnerabilities. We're not introducing delay in the software development cycle, and we're absolutely not putting additional resource challenges on an understaffed security function. This is all about automation. So where are we in the industry? So typically, DAST or dynamic application security and testing tools have been very much the tool of choice for the pen tester or the AppSec professional, because we fixed the big problems with these tools: scalability, speed, and false positives. This has enabled us to operate right across the stack, from compliance right through into the developer world. So we can sit alongside traditional developer tools like static code analysis, software composition analysis. Remember, we are not checking the code, we're not reading the code, we're not testing the code. What we are doing is interacting live with the application itself or the compiled code. What does it look like in terms of a process? As you can see on the left-hand side, this is a traditional model. We have a 5-stage process here. Imagine this as the software development cycle. And stages 4 and 5, this is security, pre-production and production. Typically, the software developer world is operating in their own silo. They're creating their code, they're making their changes, they're doing their own form of unit testing and their own form of functional testing. The software development function may be spending hundreds of man days building the latest app to be released. They're following agile methodologies, lots of sprints. And then when they're happy that the application is ready to go, typically at the 11th hour, it's passed over to security. Security are then scheduling some form of dynamic test, a pen test, security test, and they're hoping to capture as all of the vulnerabilities. The reality is they can only capture so much. So what we've done is break down these silos, and we can now introduce a 5-step process across both the software development environment and also security. And we like to say we're enabling security inside DevOps. So if you're talking about or interested in how can we implement DevSecOps, you know, what could enable us to do that, start us on this journey, we can absolutely operate inside this world. And what we're saying is we can move from this siloed approach into a fully automatic, API-driven world, whereby in this scenario here, a client is using Azure DevOps for a pipeline tool, and they can create the code, they can make their changes, commit the code, or merge it into the master. This then enables, or this then triggers a test from Bright Security. We can then dynamically pull a templated set of tests that security have defined. We can then use those tests, and we can run the tests automatically without any humans involved. We can then pass or fail the build based on the criteria set by security. So for example, security could say on every API test inside the software development lifecycle, please use these OWASP top 10 API tests. If the system finds at least one medium vulnerability, we want the scan to stop. We want the system to fail the build, and we want to create a ticket in Jira, for example, with all the remediation advice, with the evidence to prove that this is a true positive, and send it back to the developer or wherever you want. And this is a fully continuous process. So imagine some of our clients We've got everybody from small clients with, 3 or 4 software developers right through to tier 1 banks who have got thousands. So, this is a solution that can operate across all client sizes. And what does this mean conceptually? Well, typically DAST has existed in pre-production or production, as we've said, driven by AppSec or a security professional. We enable dynamic testing to operate further inside the business, or further left inside the business, many people are saying today, even right down to the build phase and sitting alongside traditional SAST and SCA. And what this enables us to do is eliminate the need for security to manually get involved here. We can automate all of the scans. We can provide consistency of all the scans. We can provide visibility to the business of all of the issues and vulnerabilities. And the main thing is we can empower the developers to fix their own problems with confidence. In terms of the architecture of the solution, it's a SaaS service. 99% of the service is collapsed into AWS globally. If there is a requirement to test local applications inside your perimeter or connect to the pipeline, we have a secondary component called a repeater. For want of a better word, this is a software gateway. It can be deployed literally in 10 seconds. It's very lightweight. Can be an NPM install, a Docker image, an MSI. You only need to install it once. It creates a very secure outbound only connection from the local network into your dedicated environment in the cloud. Whitelist your cloud engines and you're off. So no heavy lifting, no need to download software onto individuals' laptops, no issues with scalability. And what I'm going to do now is move into the demonstration for the final 5 minutes and just show you the platform very quickly. So this is the security UI of the platform. Clearly for operating in the pipeline, everything is done via API calls. The developer can see all of the evidence, all of the scan results inside whatever ticketing system or messaging platform they're using, Jira, Slack, whatever, GitHub, etc. But for security, they can also see the master view of the platform, and everything the developers do is replicated in this platform. So for example, there's a few things I want to show you very quickly. In terms of the solution itself, I've said we have different ways to perform scans. For example, yes, we have a crawler. I can quite simply give the scanner name. I can assign it to one of my projects. And as I said, we've got pre-built scan templates. You can also create your own, but again, for speed, I can simply choose, for example, an OWASP top 10 for common vulnerabilities template. I can see the detail of what's included in that template, and I can import it. And I've got a green light. All I need to do now is choose the crawler, and I can insert a URL that I want to test. So if I was to go to the benchmark site, Broken Crystals, this has got hundreds of modern vulnerabilities. I can simply copy the URL, drop it into the system. The system shows it's an authorized target. I've got 3 green lights, and there we go. That's how easy it is to build a test of a production application. It took me less than a minute. Second type of scan. Let's also look at broken crystals. Let's do a quick focus scan instead. We can use something called a HAR file. Anybody who is using a QA tool, like a Selenium, a JMeter, an Appium, they produce HAR files. in the developer's world. So if you've got the original HAR file, you can upload it and you can test just what's in the file, but you can also create your own manual HAR file. So for example, I can use the same template, I can import it. This time I can turn on the HAR recording. And if I go back to broken crystals, I can do function F12 on my Mac. Let's say I wanted to test just the sign-in page. As I interact live with the sign-in page, I can record my interactions on the right-hand side. I can now save this on my desktop as a HAR file. I can go back to the system. I can add the HAR file. The system will now import and extract all the host data. I can choose the host. I've got 3 green lights, and there we go. So for the first time, we're using a developer type tool or a developer type file, a HAR file, for also testing production applications. The big difference is if I was to test this benchmark site like I'm doing via the crawler, then it would take a good 5 hours because we're testing every URL, endpoint, parameter, etc. So it's a very deep, thorough scan, and it takes as long as it takes. Bigger the application, longer it takes. With the HAR, I'm doing a very focused scan on a part of the application, and as you can see, this will be running any minute, and it will take maybe 2 minutes. And then the third thing we can do is an API scan. So I'll do this very quickly. Assign it. This time I'll use an OWASP API template, import it. I'll go to an API schema. If I look at the Broken Crystals Swagger file, so the developer file for the benchmark site, you can see it's a JSON file. I can just copy the destination URL. I can go back to the system. I can import the file, link to the file. The system will import the Swagger file and extract all the API data and the host data. And there we go. I can choose the host. I can even open the API schema and you can see all the APIs, etc. I'm going to test them all. So I've got 3 green lights again, and there we go. So as you can see, in less than 3 minutes, I've created 3 different types of dynamic application scan. I've used a traditional crawler, a slow and steady will take hours. I've got a second way of testing production apps using the HAR file. Clearly, we can use the HAR and the API inside the pipeline as well. And for the API testing, we're testing all of the APIs. So it gives you enormous flexibility, this tool. And what can you then do with it? Very quickly, you can export this as a report, one-click export. As you can see, this is a big scan of broken crystals, nearly 300,000 send and request pairs. We've got 23 high, 90 medium, 6 lows. And what we're doing now, you can see the scan run for a couple of days on a big application. And you can see we're now generating a full site map and a full report. So this is a very large scan, but it still only takes about 20 seconds to create the report. And there we go. We've got a 400-page report with full table of contents, executive summary. We've got the full detail of the attack, the evidence, etc. So this gives you enormous flexibility. I think that's it from me. I'm right on 21 minutes. We've got a minute left for any questions.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Richard. Yeah, we're also going to launch the poll now. So Oliver, if you could launch the poll, that would be great. Just one question in. I see this is compatible with our existing QA tools, but in terms of accuracy, what percentage are there of false positives?
Good question. Less than 1%. So for every test that we perform, there is a set of criteria that the system, the application needs to demonstrate. So the tool has been built from the ground up. So a machine-driven verification of results. This is massively different than any other vendor in the industry. So less than 1%. Occasionally, we do see false positives. But these are bugs in our system and we correct them. So the system's very mature. We're in our 5th year. We see very little false positives in the solution. Hopefully that answers the question.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Richard. And question from myself, if somebody wants to have a look at Bright Security, sorry, I keep thinking Eurolegion, apologies for that. What can we do for them, Richard, in terms of next steps?
Absolutely. 2 things. Please go to RS22. They're one of our main partners in the UK region. If you want to just do a 2-week test, just test it yourself. We can spin up a free of charge access to the platform for 2 weeks, and you can just test some of your own applications or in your pipeline. If you want to do something more detailed, such as a proof of concept, you're worried about the false positive thing, you want to really check it against some key performance indicators inside your business on some genuine applications, then absolutely speak to Graham in RS22. We can spin up a proof of concept. This is typically a 2-week process. We agree together what use case you want to test, what applications, and we'll spin up a dedicated environment so you can test your applications in the pipeline or in production.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. And Ollie, are you able to launch the poll?
Yeah, the poll has been launched. We've been getting a few people's replies in, and just a couple more people. If you see your poll pop up there, fill it in. That's really helpful for everyone. But also, thank you very much for joining us, I suppose is all I would like to add.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you, especially to Richard as well. And any further questions, please drop us an email and we'll get back to you. Have a great day. Thank you, guys. All the best.
Thank you.